The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today on Aging Horizons, we are going to be speaking with Bryce Katz, who is the Bureau Chief at the Department of Revenue, and he's going to be going through some really important programs for Montana taxpayers. And that's the Property Tax Relief Program, the Montana Veterans Property Tax Relief Program, and the Elderly Renter Homeowner Tax Credits. So those are important programs. You really want to get this information, so make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare Summary Notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
45 years, 2 packs a day. It's like $80,000. I thought I was just hurting myself until I fell asleep in a chair with a cigarette. The whole house went up. I lost it all. I knew smoking was expensive, but I never thought it would cost me everything.
Can you say ombudsman?
Ombudsman. Benson?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Katie Lovell, and today we're speaking with Bryce Katz, who is the Bureau Chief for the Department of Revenue. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I want to talk about some really important programs, which are the Property Tax Relief Programs in Montana. What an important year for those programs to be in place, and thank you so much for being here to talk to us about them.
Yeah, happy to be here. You're right on. Property tax are probably on the forefront of a lot of people's mind this year. We just went through our reappraisal and saw some pretty dramatic increases based on what the market's done over the last couple years during the COVID period. So here to talk about a few of the programs that are available to help low-income people with their property tax bills.
Wonderful. So let's talk about just the General Montana Property Tax Relief Program. So that one is, tell me about the requirements for that program.
Sure, that one's our Property Tax Assistance Program, or commonly referred to as PTAP.
Okay.
There's 3 main requirements. You have to own the property, you have to reside in the property for at least 7 months out of the year as your primary residence, and then you have to meet the income thresholds.
And does that have an age requirement? Do you have to be over 60 to be able to take advantage
Nope,
of
the
it?
Property Tax Assistance Program is open to anyone. There's no age restriction on that program as long as it's, again, you're the owner of the property, reside in that property for at least 7 months of the year as your primary residence, and then fall within the income thresholds.
Wonderful. And then is that just a bright line? Either you get the credit or you don't get the credit, or is it sort of a sliding scale?
Yeah, that program is a sliding scale based on where your income falls.
Sure.
So you can qualify for either an 80%, 50%, or 30% reduction on your property taxes based on where your income falls. So the income thresholds, the maximum allowable income for a single filer is $27,621 for the 2024 tax year, and then the maximum allowable income for a married or head of household filer is going to be $37,019 for the 2024 tax year. And if you're under that, just depending on where you fall is whether you would qualify for either the 80, 50, or 30% reduction.
And those are pretty wonderful income limits. I mean, that will help so many
and
people.
the thing with those income limits, that's your federal adjusted gross income excluding losses. So if your only source of income is, say, Social Security,
Sure.
for say $20,000, chances are none of that's taxable, so
Yeah.
it doesn't count towards your federal adjusted gross income. So your income is for the purposes of the program. If it was non-taxable, just Social Security income would actually be zero.
Wow, that is so helpful for so many people. How do folks apply for the program?
So there's an application form. It's available on our website. We have field offices located throughout the state. You can either give them a call and we'd be happy to mail you an application, or you can stop in person and they'd be happy to hand you an application and help you fill it out. You could also call our call center at 406-444-6900, and they would be happy to send you an application as well.
Wonderful. And I saw some really great things when I was reading through your notes that this, a lot of folks aren't even going to have to provide documentation of their income requirements. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. It's a pretty simple application, and as long as you're filing a Montana tax return annually, you don't have to provide anything other than the application itself. As long as you're filing your state tax return each year, we'll automatically verify what your income is. The other thing about the program that changed a number of years ago now is that it's no longer an annual application. Once you apply, you're enrolled in the program, and again, as long as you're filing your return annually with the state, each year we will look up your income, see whether you qualify or not, send you a determination letter whether you're granted and denied, and if you are granted, whether you're going to receive the 80, 50, or 30% reduction.
That is so helpful for folks to not have to go through that process every year and to just have that one less thing off their shoulders.
Absolutely. And then the one thing that did change, or will be changing for the 2024 tax year passed during this recent legislative session, is prior the benefit only applied up to the first $200,000 in market value of your property.
Sure.
That's been increased to $350,000 starting in 2024. So you would, if you had a house valued at $400,000, the benefit would apply on $350,000 of that property, and then the remaining $50,000 would be taxed as normal.
And what a wonderful increase for folks. I know, our property value shot up, and it's so nice to hear that folks really have that assistance so that they can stay in their homes.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. And so again, remind me one more time how folks apply.
So yeah, the application deadline is April 15th, so it aligns with all your other income tax filing deadlines. Yeah. Again, the application form is available on our website. You can stop in or call one of our local field offices located throughout the state. All that contact information is on our website, and that is mtrevenue.gov.
Okay.
So again, reach out to one of our local offices, go to our website, call our call center at 406-444-6900, and we would be happy to get you an application and help you complete it.
Wonderful. That is so helpful. And this program differs slightly from the program that is directed toward veterans. Can you tell me a little bit about that difference?
Sure. There's a second program. It's called the Montana Disabled Veterans Program. It's very similar in the criteria. There's just one additional criteria. So again, you have to own the property, reside in it as your primary residence for at least 7 months of the year, fall within the income thresholds, and then the requirement unique to that is you have to either be rated 100% disabled from the VA or paid at the 100% rate, or be a surviving spouse of a veteran that was rated or paid at 100% when they passed, or passed on active duty, or from a service-related disability.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about that program, go through those requirements one more time, and then talk a little bit about the programs under the Montana Elderly Renter Homeowners and Tax Credit. So make sure you stay tuned, because we've got lots of important information left still.
Perhaps our regular viewers have noticed that we've been missing a host for the last several months. In July, our favorite person, Kimmy Everman, unexpectedly passed away, and we'd like to take a few moments now to share some memories that we have of her.
For many of us, watching Aging Horizons with Kimmy on the host was like talking to a friend, and for Kimmy, that's exactly what it was. She cared about all of the viewers of Montana on Aging Horizons as if they were her personal friends. She wanted each of us to live the best possible life and connect to as many services as possible. She had no greater joy in life than connecting advocates to others that could help Montanans across the state with problems that they maybe didn't know as much about. Losing Kimmy was a great loss to the state of Montana, but the work that she did will live on in the hearts and minds and Rolodexes of so many of us at the state.
So working with Kimmy was always a very fun experience for me. She lit up a room with her smile, and I loved her giggle. She had this giggle that was the cutest, most happiest spreading of joy that I could describe. She also was very passionate about her work, about helping veterans, and about her dog Sophie.
Kimmy's been my friend, my coworker, and my mentor for over 20 years. She has taught me so much about not only Medicare, but working with people. She had a great sense of compassion and love, especially for veterans, animals, and the underdog. She loved working with seniors and people with disabilities. That was her heart. She will be greatly missed.
Aging Horizons has been on the air for over 30 years, and I've had the pleasure of working with these wonderful ladies and everybody in senior long-term care that length of time, including Kimmy Everman. And whenever we got done with the show, I just loved her laughter, which everybody's commented here. It was like we're getting away with something. Isn't this fun? And I will sincerely miss both that and her.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we're learning about some really important tax relief programs for Montana citizens. We are speaking with Bryce Katz. He is the Bureau Chief for the Department of Revenue, and we've already gone over the Property Tax Assistance Program. And now we're talking a little bit about the Veterans Property Tax Assistance Program. So thank you so much for being with us again today. These programs are so important, and this Veterans one I think is just, so near and dear to my heart. My dad's a veteran, and I just think it's so wonderful. So again, let's talk a little bit about what defines the difference between the two.
Sure. Again, they're very similar. The main difference between the two is for the Montana Disabled Veterans Program. You have to be rated at 100% disabled from the VA or paid at the 100% rate.
Okay.
Or if you're a surviving spouse of a veteran that was rated or paid at 100% at the time of their passing, passed while on active duty, or passed because of a service-connected disability, a surviving spouse can qualify as well. The other requirements are the same. Again, you have to own the property, reside in it for 7 months of the year as your primary residence, and then fall within the income thresholds, which are higher than what are the thresholds for the Property Tax Assistance Program.
That's wonderful. And again, there's no age requirement for this program.
Correct. There's no age limitation on this program. It's just you have to meet that 100% or paid at the 100% disabled rate.
Wonderful. And is there any additional verification? I assume that you would need something from the VA?
Yep, that's the only thing with the application. Again, we don't need proof of income as long as you're filing your Montana tax return each year. We do need a letter from the VA showing that you are rated at or paid at that 100% rate.
Sure. And if folks don't have to file a tax return, maybe they only receive Social Security, how do they provide proof of income?
Yeah, if you're don't have a filing requirement, you're not filing that tax return, just on your initial application, we just ask that you supply your 1099s or whatever documentation you have showing that you don't have a filing requirement, that your only source of income is non-taxable. You supply that with your initial application, and then we will just verify that that's the case and move on from there.
Wonderful. And then you get that same April 15th deadline for the Veterans Program?
Yep, just like the Property Tax Assistance Program, the filing deadline is April 15th. We try to make it easy. all the same deadlines. Same as the property tax assistance program. You don't have to reapply annually. Once you apply, you're in. Again, if you're filing annually, each year we're going to look up what your income was, see if you qualify or not for that coming tax year. We'll send you a determination letter letting you know whether you were granted or denied. The other difference, I guess, with this program is you can actually get a 100% reduction on your property tax.
Wow.
So you can get a 100, 80, 70, or 50% reduction, again, depending on where your income falls within the scale there.
Sure.
And the other nice thing about this program in comparison to the property tax assistance program is there is no valuation limit for the Montana Disabled Veterans Program. So it would apply to the entire value of your property up to a certain acreage. So if you own in excess of 5 acres, it doesn't apply to any of that excess acreage, but it would apply to the entire property value. There is no limit on the value that it applies to.
What a wonderful program for Montana to have to support our veterans and our veterans' families. I just think that's so wonderful. I do want to talk a little bit about the Elderly Renter Homeowners and Tax Credit, another program super dear to my heart. Can you explain that program to us?
Sure. So that one is an actual income tax credit, and it is a refundable credit. So you do need to file annually for that to receive that credit, just like you do all your other income taxes require annual filing. Again, that deadline is April 15th. There is an age limitation on that program, so you have to be 62 years or older. And so if you're filing for 2024, you had to have been 62 as of December 31st of 2023.
Okay.
That credit is up to $1,150, and it's there's a formula sliding scale based on your income and then what you paid in property taxes or rent. That's the other unique thing about the 2EC credit versus the other property tax assistance programs is this one is available to renters. You don't have to actually own the property.
That is amazing, especially with the cost of rent increasing in so many communities. What an important tax credit. Now, how do folks know if they're eligible?
You can, again, go to our website. There's great information on there. There's a calculator that will help you determine if you're eligible and what amount of the credit you're eligible for. Again, the requirements for that program are a little different. Again, you have to be 62 years or older.
Sure.
You have to have resided in Montana for at least 9 months of the year, and you had to have lived in the property for at least 6 months of the year. And then the income threshold for that program is $45,000, and that's total gross household income. So that's a little different there. It's going to take into account everyone that's living in that household's income. So if you say we're living with a child, we'd have to consider that child's income as well when determining that $45,000 total gross household income limitation.
Sure. Such a wonderful way for folks to get a little bit of that income back at the end of the year. So wonderful for folks to be able to use that.
Absolutely.
So important. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that you can apply for both of these programs, correct?
Yes, you can.
That's so wonderful. So when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about how these programs can work together to make sure that Montana citizens are getting the best benefit possible to them. So make sure you stay tuned. We've already talked about that property tax assistance program. We've talked about the veterans program, and we've covered a little bit about that elderly renter homeowner tax credit, and we're going to talk a lot more about it when we return. So thank you for staying tuned to Aging Horizons.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Respite. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. Will you provide it?
The hard part about having outside help is that there's not a lot of people out there who can do that kind of work. We've been very fortunate that our Bonnie has been with us for 7 years. I don't know what I'd do without her. I need her in our lives. She's our second mother. And I can't help but think of her that way.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, call 800-224-6034 or visit respite.mt.gov.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we are covering some of the most important information for Montana taxpayers. We're talking all about property tax assistance programs. We've gone over the general program, we've gone over the veterans program, and we're talking about the elderly renter homeowner tax credit. So, thank you so much again for explaining all of this wonderful information for me, for our viewers. So important. So the elderly renter homeowner tax credit is a tax credit, which means we have to apply every year or just once?
Correct. Since that's an income tax credit, you do have to file your income tax return annually to be able to claim that credit.
Okay.
The nice thing about that, since it is an income tax credit, if this is the first time you're hearing about the program and you just realized, hey, I would have been eligible for this the past couple of years, you can actually go back 3 years and file an amended return and still be able to claim that credit.
So you would get back years of credits if it's the first
potentially,
time?
If you would have qualified, say, last year, but you didn't know about the program, you can go back and file an amended return for that year and still be able to claim the credit.
That is so wonderful. So because this is a credit, it is different than the property tax assistance programs. Does that mean a person can qualify for both?
Yeah, actually a person can qualify for both. So the property tax assistance programs get applied and would actually lower the property tax bill you would receive from your county treasurer in the fall.
Sure.
This is an income tax credit and a refundable credit, so you'd file an income tax return and get potential money back if you qualify. You can qualify for both, especially with what property values have done.
Sure.
So the income, the elderly homeowner renter credit is based on how much you paid in property taxes. So if you receive the property tax assistance benefit, since that's lowering what you paid in property tax, it might lower the amount of credit you're eligible for,
sure,
but you can still possibly receive both the property tax assistance program to lower your property tax and still be eligible to claim the elderly homeowner renter credit.
Sure, and I assume that probably happens more in areas of the state that have seen a larger valuation in property values, like Bozeman, Kalispell.
Absolutely.
Like that.
So especially with prior years when the property tax assistance program was limited to the first $200,000 in market value, if you had a house, say, valued at $500,000, you're still paying a pretty substantial amount of property taxes, and that's where you would then potentially, if you meet the eligibility requirements for that elderly homeowner renter credit, still be able to claim the credit for that excess you paid that the property tax assistance program didn't give you a benefit on.
Wonderful. And how do folks apply for the income credit?
Yeah, so there's lots of options available. You know, we absolutely encourage electronic filing. That's how most people file. It's safe, it's secure. You'll get your refund a lot faster if you file electronically. Again, if you go to our website, mtrevenue.gov, there's a lot of great information out there. There's links to resources for free filing options. Usually there's some sort of income or age limitation, but there's a lot of free file programs out there. There's also organizations out there that help lower income individuals or elderly individuals file their tax return. There's links on our website to resources there as well. You'll be able to look up your specific community and see if there's any events getting hosted at the library. AARP will host events to help elderly people file their tax returns. So again, if you're filing a tax return, you would just file your normal Form 2 with the state of Montana, and then there's just an additional a portion of that form to be able to claim the credit. If you don't have a filing requirement, you can go to our TAP site. and be able to apply just for the 2EC credit, or you can just go ahead and file the normal Form 2 with the specific form for the elderly homeowner renter credit.
Wonderful. And what are people going to know have to know in order to be able to file for their credit? Is it how much they paid in property taxes or rent? What are they going to need? What information?
Yeah, so it's going to be exactly that. You need to know what your property tax bill was for the year or what you paid in rent. And then there's a formula that, if you're a renter, that calculates, what proportion of your rent is attributed to property taxes, and then just your general household income. So again, for the 2EC credit, that's $45,000 in total gross household income. So that's going to be both your taxable and non-taxable income, and the income of anyone else living in that household.
Wonderful. So if people are having questions, if they've maybe only caught a portion of this program and they want more information, where should they go?
Yeah, again, our website is full of great information, mtrevenue.gov, and then our call center is great. They are well versed in a lot of different topics. Again, that number is 406-444-6900.
Wonderful.
You give them a call, they're more than happy to help you out, send you forms, point you in the right direction.
That is just so helpful for folks that are dealing with the extra strain of property taxes and just generally inflation and everything else that's going on in the world. So wonderful to know that this help is available for our Montanans. So just as an overview, I just want to go through the Property Tax Assistance Program is available to anyone, does not have an age requirement. There are income requirements, correct?
Yep. Again, real quick, you have to own the property, live in it for 7 months of the year as your primary residence, and then fall within those income guidelines.
Okay, and then for the Veterans Program, the additional requirements are that you are a person who is rated at 100% disability through the VA or surviving spouse, correct?
Yep, rated 100% or paid at the 100% rate, or a surviving spouse of someone who was rated or paid at the 100% or died because of a service-connected disability.
Wonderful. And then the elderly renter homeowner tax credit, that is an income credit that you apply for annually.
Yep, that's an income tax credit, so you have to file your annual income tax return. Again, that one you have to be 62 years or older. You have to have your total gross household income of $45,000 or less. You had to live in Montana for at least 9 months and occupied or rented a dwelling for at least 6 months.
It's amazing that you can keep all of these deadlines straight. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was so informative, so helpful. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that you learned as much as I did. We've given you some really great resources. Make sure that you check those out. Check out the website. Call the call center if you need additional help. And make sure that you're applying for these programs if you need that assistance, or if someone in your community does, that you're passing on those resources. Thank you so much for staying tuned to Aging Horizons. And again, Bryce, just thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.